Hey guys, here we go. This is the second time I recorded this video. I kind of messed it up. Whenever I cut clips and I edit videos, I have to turn off my mic. Yeah, I don't give a shit. Whatever. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and get into the fight and kind of talk about it. It's not the full fight. It's a lot of clips. And I'm going to be talking about the ebb and the flow and the way that the patterns change throughout the fight. So right away, we notice Wilder shoots a jab, right, and he commits to it, and Ortiz immediately thinks he has time to counter, right, shooting his own jabs and countering Wilder, and Wilder not countering him, right? He knows through probably film study or tape that Wilder doesn't commit to more than one shot in a row, right? That when he does commit to one shot, that's the only punch that's going to come, right? So if he throws a jab and it's a hard jab, that nothing else is coming off of it. But if he throws a flashing jab, right, that a right hand is coming off of it. And you'll see what I'm talking about in a second. So some probing here, right, just a few seconds after that. Battling for lead hand dominance, very important in this fight, right? Keeping Ortiz on the outside, and this is what stops Ortiz from just kind of barreling through, right? Is the fact that Wilder is trying to control the space between them with the lead hand. Now notice, as soon as Wilder stops controlling him, Ortiz starts coming forward, shooting the jab, and look at how he takes that step back, right? Expecting a right hand counter. So he's testing the waters, trying to see if Wilder is going to counter him. Pawing the lead hand, controlling him, and at this point, Ortiz says, nah, I don't want you to do that, right? Then Wilder shoots the jab, right here, Wilder shoots the jab, it gets blocked by Ortiz, Ortiz knows another punch isn't coming, right? And then another jab comes from Wilder, another jab comes from Wilder, and Ortiz decides to counter him. Again, something he probably figured out in film study. After watching the fight, it took me 3 rounds to figure it out myself, but again, Wilder shooting that jab, and Ortiz able to come in and counter him to the body right there, having a lot of success. Again, right, Wilder shoots the jab, and Ortiz attacks him. Boom, boom, right? And look at how far away Wilder moves when those counters start coming. This is really important for later on in the fight, and I'll show you guys why later, but it's very important to remember that. Again, look at how far away Wilder moves away when those punches start coming at him. He's not looking to counter at all. He's not looking to set up his own counters, right, or set up shots off of Ortiz's punches, or necessarily even control the space between them, right, by controlling the lead hand and making Ortiz make the first mistake, right? Just trying to establish his jab, right, by flashing it out there. And we'll see other opportunities, right? But again, Wilder shoots his jab, right, a hard jab, and Ortiz comes in, boom, and counters him to the body and to the head, and that winds up being a very beneficial engagement for Ortiz. Now, this is the first time that Wilder comes in and he throws a fake jab, right? He just flashes his jab, and it's not a real shot, right? As you can see, he just flashes it, right? And Ortiz knows that the right hand is coming after it because the jab wasn't a real punch, so he's able to slip that and pull counter him and land his own straight left hand, right? And this is all just knowledge that he's gained from Wilder, watching his fights probably, and doing film study. You know, it took me a little too long to figure it out. To be honest, I was kind of a little annoyed with myself, but he picked it up, and I picked it up in around the 3rd round. But you can see that Wilder now looking to control the space between them, and when he flashes that jab out, right, he knows the counter is coming back, right? So he moves back, tries to get away from that shit, right? Again, moving off the line after he throws that jab. And Wilder not looking to counter, right? And Ortiz picking up on that. Oh, he's not countering me, right? But Wilder, again, using that active guard, right, and controlling Ortiz to slow down the pace, right? Remember, the first few rounds were kind of close. Obviously, Ortiz won them, right? But if Wilder was just a little bit more active or had, the ability to throw a couple more punches, maybe he could have stole the rounds with activity, even though he wasn't landing, right? And I talked a lot about that in my film study leading up to the fight. But here we have Ortiz here, right, flashing that right hand, faking it, right, and Ortiz showing that he's ready for it and feinting Wilder too, and Wilder moving away. Whoops, I don't need my mouse on the screen. And now this is the first time that Wilder throws a counter without without telling on himself, without flashing the lead hand, right? The first time he throws a right hand without flashing the lead hand, right? So he's flashing it, not flashing it, I mean, but probing, right? And Ortiz in his mind says, he's not countering me, he's not doing anything, right? But Ortiz just turns immediately into that right hand, kind of grazes him, right? It winds up not being a great shot because Ortiz punches Wilder in the elbow and it stops him from really turning the shot over, right? But Wilder figuring out that he's being timed, right? That he's telling on himself with his punches, he's making them, he's the one telegraphing them. Now, he looks to do the same kind of tactic, wait for Ortiz to tell on himself. Oh, that's what I didn't talk about. Ortiz tells on himself with the flashing of his lead hand as well, right? And that's why Wilder is able to kind of counter him. But here, Ortiz does not tell on himself, is able to land that straight left hand, and Wilder isn't able to land the counter. And then now Ortiz knows he's trying to counter him, so he flashes like he's going to flash that lead hand, and Wilder tells on himself again, saying, hey, yeah, I am trying to counter you, bro, my bad, just kidding, ha, ha, ha. You know, and he winds up getting a little bit out of position. But this is the first time that Wilder has flashed that lead hand as a hard jab, knowing that counters are coming back at him, eating the counter and throwing his own punches, you know, making Ortiz pay for countering him by breaking the rhythm, right? Now, I wouldn't say that it's necessarily super smart to eat punches, but if you're only eating a jab to land two hard power punches, it's definitely worth it, right? But it's a good thing that Ortiz didn't throw a 1-2 counter, right? But anyway, they start the next round vying for lead hand dominance, control, and Wilder is off the game plan of countering, right? Countering like he did the last round. And again, Wilder shoots that hard jab, and then Ortiz tries to counter him. Now, this is really important too, remember? He's moving to the right, and he's able to pull away from that straight left hand of Ortiz, right? This is going to come into play much later in the fight, and we'll talk about it when it does. Flashing the lead hand, getting controlled, right? Flashing the lead hand. And again, Ortiz doesn't want to telegraph that he's countering, so he just straight shoots the left hand, and Wilder is not able to counter it, right? But Wilder is not really looking to set up his shots right now. He's not looking to put himself out of position, you know, and this is one of the first right hands he throws of the round, flashing the lead hand out there, telling on himself, and Ortiz blocking the straight right hand very easily. Again, the same thing, right? Flashing the lead hand, and he doesn't telegraph that one super well. He just feints him and gives him a little shoulder flip, you know, and Ortiz says, yeah, I'm kind of ready for it. And then he flashes his lead hand like he's going to throw a shot, commits to it, and almost gets countered. Ooh. Now, Wilder. Now, this is the end of the round. For some reason, my clip got a little messed up, but he's no longer controlling the distance, right? And he allows Ortiz to come in and tell on himself, flashes his lead hand, right? Knows he's going to take the lead foot dominance off of that, and then tries to counter him with the hook, right? He does eat the body shot, right? But Wilder figuring out that if he doesn't control the space between them, Ortiz also has a hard time setting his punches up and not telling on himself, because they both have a very similar, you know, flash the lead hand, throw the right, flash the lead hand, throw the left kind of style, right? Aside from the fact that Ortiz is more mechanically sound than Wilder. But anyway, moving on, controlling him with the lead hand, and Ortiz figures out, or Wilder figures out, that he can get, or he can stop Ortiz from countering the right hand like that, right? By flashing the lead hand like a hook, right? Because now Ortiz doesn't think the right hand's coming, right? Because all the other times he would just flash it like it was a jab, but this time he uses it as a hook, and he's able to throw a right hand in there. Doesn't land, right? Same situation right here, right? But because, remember earlier, he would only throw one punch at a time, he committing to one punch at a time. Now he's turning it up to two, even though it's difficult to do it with the jab, like a straight 1-2 against a southpaw opponent, right? He's able to flash the lead hand and then just throw a straight right. Almost sneaks it in there, right? But Ortiz is not super ready for it, definitely not ready enough to counter it. And then again, when he just flashes and commits to a jab, right, he knows that the straight right hand is not coming behind it, and he knows he's safe to counter it. Same thing right there, flashing the lead hand. He knows that Wilder's not looking to counter him, and I don't know why Wilder got away from the counters. It looked like he was starting to have success, but here we have the first time that Wilder doesn't really telegraph the shot, right? He leans into the right hand, and throws the right hand, and Ortiz is in position to counter him, but fortunately, Wilder uses responsible defense and knows the counters are coming, right, and is able to get away from them. Now, this is smart. This is really smart from Wilder. This is the first time he really uses his lead hand, not just controlling Ortiz's lead hand, but probing with it, right? Asking him questions. So he says, hey, what do you think about this? Hey, what do you think about this? And Ortiz doesn't say anything, so he just shoots it as a jab, right? Not flashing it out there, not telegraphing the shot, but actually lands a good probing shot. And this winds up becoming very important later on. But here he goes with that same 1-2, or basically 3-2. And Ortiz does a good job of getting under that one, right? So Wilder figures out, oh, I need to do something else, right? Tries to move to the uppercut here, right? Doesn't work because he's still telegraphing the right hand. Now, this is the first time I got really excited when I watched the fight. I'm going to put this one in slow-mo. So, whoops, we're going to have to go back again. But he's controlling him, and he gets Ortiz to make the first move, right? Ortiz slips to the inside, right? Boom, and he scrapes that right off the top of his head, but he doesn't telegraph the right hand this time by flashing the lead hand or slapping with the left hook. Remember all the other times he's telegraphed it, so Ortiz knows that when that slapping left hook comes, the right hand still might come behind it. He knows that when the flashing lead hand comes, the right hand's going to come behind it. He knows that there's no right hand coming off of the jab, right? Off of a real jab, but he doesn't expect that Wilder is just going to straight throw a bomb right hand right here. We'll watch it one more time because Wilder does a good job of concealing it this time, even though he kind of gets raked by that right hook, or that right hook right there. Boom, and now he finally lands a straight right hand of his own without telegraphing it, without setting it up. He goes to control the lead hand, right, and then just walks him into a right hand. And it might touch the top of his forehead, it might not, it's not important. What is important is that Ortiz is not in a position to counter it, right? And we're going to go ahead and move on. The end of the 5th round. And then boom! What does he do? We're going to put it in slow-mo again. My bad. I should have remembered this was coming. But he's probing with that lead hand, controlling the lead hand, and then he doesn't flash the lead hand and telegraph that he's going to throw a straight right hand. He just throws the straight right hand after seeing that Ortiz is not reacting. And this is a problem with not having an active guard, without moving your head, without slipping your punches, right? And he gets walked into that straight right hand and gets dropped by the preceding right hand here, right? Or Wilder doing a great job of making adjustments so far. And then again, the next round, I don't mean to gloss over it, right? But we've got a lot of footage to cover, right? We're about halfway through. It's supposed to be a pretty quick film study too. Just talking about the ebb and the flow and all of the adjustments that Wilder is making, all the things that he's learning in the fight, right? Now he does the same thing where he kind of flashes the lead hand, right, and stops Ortiz from, really countering him, right? Going back to controlling, throwing the left hook, right? Again, probing, right? Probe. What do you think about that? And because Ortiz doesn't react to those lead hands, right, he slaps him with that left hook, right? And Ortiz acknowledges. This is something that you'll see from a lot of really good fighters when you get them with a little trick, right? They'll be like, yeah, good job. You're learning, right? Golovkin does it, when his opponents kind of learn a little trick or do something. Kovalev does it. I don't think anybody gets to hit Lomachenko very often, so he doesn't do it. But anyway, moving on. Controlling the lead hand, right? And again, he's not flashing it, right? And he's able to sneak that right hand in there, right? And Ortiz can't counter because it's not being telegraphed anymore, right? But what happens right after he throws this untelegraphed right hand? He flashes that lead hand, boom, and does telegraph it, and Ortiz is able to slip it and get out of the way of it. So you can definitely see the difference in the two styles of right hands. Again, Wilder figuring out that he just needs to probe with that jab, right? Not telegraph it, not flash the lead hand out there, right? Not flash it out there, hey, watch this, and throw a right hand, but just be like, hey, and then sneak the right hand in there. And it's only super effective against Ortiz because Ortiz doesn't have any head movement. Anyway, moving on. Again, cracking him with that straight right hand because Ortiz doesn't have any head movement. Now that exchange looks really bad for Ortiz, but it's not. he lands the right hand, gets away from the counters, right? And then expects after the left hand coming that there's going to be another right hook, and he's just rolling right here. The only reason it looks so bad is because he's so much taller than Ortiz. He does kind of get caught with another hook right there, but that's not the point. And again, right, showing that when he flashes the lead hand and steps with it, right, and maybe stepping is the biggest part of it, right, that's the telegraph of the lead left hand, right, because he wants to take... or the lead right hand because he wants to take lead foot dominance. And when he doesn't do it, he has much more success. But showing that at least that he has defensive responsibility in slipping and rolling, getting away from the counters that he knows are coming. Now the 7th round is a good round for Wilder until he gets cracked. I love how he starts standing his ground with his lead hand. Look at how he gets that elbow up, right? And he's controlling that lead hand of Ortiz. He says, hey, I'm not going anywhere, bro. I'm not going anywhere. I know how to hit you now, right? But he doesn't have the experience, right, to stay on the outside, right? He's trying to fight him from the inside, right? And his arm's getting controlled by Ortiz, who's on the outside. But Wilder's showing that he's very smart, that he's learning on the job. More lead hand control. And again, right, control that lead hand. And he doesn't step with it. He doesn't flash the lead hand. He's able to sneak another straight right hand in there. That one he does step with, right? And he does flash the lead hand, and Ortiz is easily able to catch it, you know? And you can see the difference in it. He does the same thing, right? Flashes it, takes a step, Ortiz catches it. And now this is the part where he really gets rocked, right? Boom, he does land his right hand, but because of the fact that Ortiz or Wilder is telegraphing it, remember stepping with the lead hand and flashing it out there, Ortiz is able to counter him right there, right? Flashes it, boom, and catches him with that right hook. And then, you know, after that right hook, he feints him, right? Gets Wilder to move back. And unfortunately for Wilder, he doesn't pivot out and get off the line because he's out of position right here. He comes back onto the line to turn away from it, but he doesn't make it in time. Winds up getting cracked with the straight left hand. At that point, you know, after he moved away from the feint, right, what he really needed to do was pivot out and move off the line in order to avoid taking any serious damage. And that's, you know, a lesson to learn. But after that, you know, I don't know what his corner tells him, but Wilder stops worrying about the lead left hand. He doesn't worry about it being a punch. He doesn't worry about when he doesn't have control. And as you can see, he's completely comfortable standing in front of Ortiz, right? All the way up until Ortiz throws that left hand and he's able to slip it, right? Catching the left hand there, right? He knows that the lead hand is coming. He even allows it to basically rest on his chest right here, right? He just allows it to rest there. And then catching the straight left hand, boom, with his glove, right? Saying, I only need to worry about the left hand. I only need to worry about the left hand. And that'll be important in a few minutes, right? When we get to the end of it. Again, right? He's still hurt from the last round, right? But catching the left hand again, right? Control, not worried about the jab, right? He knows he doesn't have to worry about the lead hand of Ortiz. Boom. But unfortunately, he gets out of position here, tries to shoot that straight right hand, and woo, barely misses that shot right there because he knows the counter is coming, right? He does not want to go first against Ortiz. It looks like it hits him in real time, right? Doesn't it look like it hits him in real time? But misses him, you know, by a mile because Wilder knows that it's coming. But controlling that lead hand, right? And he's not worried about the lead hand. He knows the right hook's not coming, right? Control, and then he waits for that left hand and again slips it, right? And this is very important for the rest of the fight, you guys. And then Wilder, again, not really worried about the lead hand, right? But unfortunately, in this instance, Ortiz does a very good job of disguising the straight left hand by not playing the lead hand dominance game and just sneaking that straight left hand in there. Good job from Ortiz right there. Moving on, again. Now, this is really interesting, right? So most people say that you want to circle to the left against a southpaw to get away from the right hand, right? Now, you can do whatever you want in the ring as long as you know what you're doing and why you're doing it, right? And I think at this point, Wilder has figured something out about Ortiz. Even though he was hurt in the last round, maybe not in the last round, but he in the round before that, yeah, in the last round he was hurt, but he was moving away from the left hand and he knew he was able to kind of time it and wait for it, right? and see it coming, right? Not very many left hands in that round landed, because he was able to not worry about the jab or the lead hand of Ortiz, because Ortiz is no longer using that, using his jab as a punch, right, or to really set up his shot. He's just pawing with it to get into distance. He's just pawing with it to control Deontay Wilder's lead hand enough that he can actually throw his straight left hand, right? And the problem with that is that he's no longer using it for information. He's no longer asking questions of Deontay Wilder. He thinks that he has all the answers already, and that's what gets him in trouble. So Deontay Wilder moving to the right, and look at how much closer he's staying to Ortiz, right? Expecting the double flash of the lead hand. A lead hand comes, and does he run away like he did earlier in the fight? No, he's staying there again. And now notice how much more he's moving away immediately from Ortiz, right? Instead of battling for that lead hand dominance like he was before. Remember when he was doing his elbows and really fighting for that real estate? But now he's moving away. He's allowing Ortiz to kind of come forward, right? There's like a lull in the fight, right? And I think Wilder looks to land that straight left hand, right? But he walks him into it, kind of lands on top of his head, right? But it was on that great timing, right, where he's just flashing the lead hand as a probe, right? And he winds up getting away with it. Now this is important right here. I wanted to talk about this. So Wilder is moving to his left right now. So if you watch the beginning of this round, I don't want to use clips that are too long because I don't want to get caught picked up for copyright. But he moves along these ropes right here, right, and circles out this way to be where he is right now, right? And he wants to be moving at the moment. He wants to be moving to his left or to his right, right? And you'll see why in a minute. But what he does here is he starts shooting that jab at Ortiz to stop Ortiz from cutting the ring off on him so he can make it to the middle of the ring, right? And then immediately after that, he starts circling to his right, right? And now he's circling to his right and Ortiz is probing with the straight left hand, right? And then Ortiz actually cuts the ring off on him and changes the angle, and Wilder is forced to move back in this direction where he does not want to be going, right? So he moves back this way, flashes the lead hand at him, right? Probes him, gets Ortiz to react and stop cutting the ring off on him, and that allows Wilder to move to his right now. Move to his right, move to his right. And boom, he's able to land a great straight right hand. And the reason that he is because he throws that slapping left hand, right? And he knows that that's going to trigger a response from Ortiz. Remember earlier in the fight or in the video, whenever he would throw one single punch, Ortiz would try to counter. Ortiz gotten back to that rhythm, right, and that pattern, and tries to counter him with that straight left and winds up walking into that straight right hand of his, right? And the reason that moving to his right is important, right, is because he wants his weight on his right leg, right, so that he can spring from his right leg, transfer his weight to his left leg, and slip the shot of Ortiz while throwing his own punch. Boom! And winds up catching. Let's just watch it again. It's beautiful boxing from Wilder, picking up on the patterns of Ortiz and really showing that he's really thinking in there, right? I'm very impressed with Wilder after this fight, especially because it doesn't come down to just the fact that Ortiz was not moving his head. You know, it's not just that. He does wind up outthinking him in this point of the fight. But here we have the next round, right? And Wilder is moving to his right again, trying to get Ortiz to follow him to the right, right? And Ortiz immediately cuts the ring off on him. Look at how he cuts the ring off and gets Wilder to move to his left, right? Now again, the same thing. They circle the ropes. I don't want to use footage, it's too long. And once they get to the edge, right, Wilder shoots that jab and immediately takes the center of the ring, right? Shoots another jab at him to take the center of the ring and then starts moving back again to his right, right? And remember what he figured out earlier in the fight, that he doesn't need to worry about the lead hand, right? The lead hand is not a problem. It's not going to be a punch. It's not going to be anything he needs to worry about. He only needs to worry about the straight left hand because Ortiz is not attacking with the right hook. Ortiz is not attacking really with the jab. He's only using it to set up the left hand, right? So now Wilder is moving to his right, moving to his right. He sees these probes coming, and unfortunately, Ortiz is not using them as probes anymore. He's not asking questions of Deontay Wilder. He thinks he has them all figured out, especially after the last round when he had a very similar probe, or Wilder runs away and he throws a straight left and misses, right? But in this instance, Wilder takes 2 steps back, baits the straight left hand, and winds up cracking him with the shot, right? Because Wilder, or Ortiz, thinks he has all the right questions asked, but Wilder sets him up for this shot beautifully after spending the last 2 rounds trying to figure out a way that he can move to his right and get away from Ortiz. Beautiful shot from Wilder. Very impressive that he stays composed while these shots are coming at him, right? Understanding that he doesn't need to worry about the left hand. It's not a danger, or the jab. He knows it's not a danger, and is able to walk him into that straight right hand counter. Beautiful shot from Wilder. Now, as much as I don't like to talk about, and I'm not happy with the results of Ward-Kovalev, the first fight I thought Kovalev won. The second fight I thought Kovalev was winning. And all the way up until the fight where Ward caught him with the straight right hand, right, and hurt him. And he definitely hurt Kovalev. He definitely hurt Kovalev. And I think even without the low blows, he could have stopped him, right? And I wish that he would have without the low blows, because I don't like the controversy over it. But one thing I want to talk about is if you watch that right hand, previously to that, Ward was doing the same thing that Deontay Wilder is doing in this fight, right? He noticed that those flashing lead hands, Kovalev was using them to set their punches up, right? So Kovalev would flash the lead hand, probe, 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 hey, slip, probe. And then when Andre Ward would react to the probe and try to counter it as if it was a punch, or counter it or make a move, Kovalev would come in, boom, and come in with that right hand and crush him, right? Land a good right hand to the body, or land a good right hand to the head. And in the first fight, Ward figured out that those were the setups for Kovalev, and he was baiting him with those shots. So what Ward did was, instead of playing that game with him because he was losing, i.e. the second round knockdown, if you watch it, Kovalev sets it up beautifully, probe, and he gets Ward to try to counter over the top of the probe, slips the counter and throws his own right hand, and that's when the knockdown happens. When Ward picks up on that, he realizes that those probes, those little lead hands that are coming out like kind of slow and kind of not real punches, but he's never seen anyone do that before, that they're setups for his other shots. And instead of playing that game with him, he just moves back, right? And that's exactly what Deontay Wilder does here, right? He's not winning that game, right? So what does he do? He allows him to start setting up his shots and just says, hey, come on, come on, come on. Boom. And walks him into a shot because of the fact that Ortiz thought he had all the information, right? Just like Kovalev stopped using the probing to gain information. He thought he already had all the information. He thought he already knew exactly how Ward was going to react, and then Ward winds up slipping one of those shots instead of just ducking under and then coming up with the right hand and really hurting Kovalev. And in this instance, Ortiz thought that Wilder was going to run and dip out, but he doesn't. He comes back with the counter, changing up the game and changing up the pattern, and breaking it and really putting Ortiz in a bad spot. And that was the end of the fight. There are a couple more punches, but this is the one that really did it for Wilder, really put him over, and I found really impressive. I know that there were most of the fight, Wilder was not winning the fight at all. Probably 80% of the fight, he was not winning, all the way up until the 5th round when he knocked him down, which was great. He changed his pattern up again. He made an adjustment and landed a great shot, but most of that round was also spent by Ortiz just controlling him, even though Ortiz wasn't having a lot of success either because Wilder was being very active with the lead hand dominance. He's able to slow Ortiz's work rate down enough that Ortiz couldn't even land a lot of shots either. But just very interesting stuff and a great KO for Wilder. I'm really impressed. He does have a lot of work to do, but if he can learn from this fight and remember and realize that he doesn't always need to set up his shots, with flashy feints, right, and just kind of walk people into them with the probes like he was doing against Ortiz here, he's going to have a lot of success in the future, a lot of success. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks, guys.